If you've ever been told you're too sensitive, too emotional, or making a big deal out of nothing, just stop. Stop right now. You're not broken. You're not dramatic. You're being gaslit. Have you heard of gaslighting? Well, today I'm going to expose the most popular control tool of the 21st century that's been used on you your entire life. When I first heard about gaslighting, I was in therapy, early 20s, after a breakup, and my therapist said, "It sounds like he's gaslighting you." And I said, "What is that?" And she had me watch the movie from the 40s. I had never really even watched black and white movies before, but I said, "I'm going to watch this one." And I saw how this strong, talented woman in the movie was systematically being broken down, made to believe she was crazy, made to believe it was all in her head by a person. And that's when I grasped the concept of gaslighting, because that's exactly what was happening to me. I've always been, outspoken when I needed to be, social, um, just a little bit confident in who I was. And being gaslit by this person systematically broke me down, systematically broke me into being more subservient, um, tolerating behavior that just today makes me cringe, and just becoming this yes person. And it happened early on. So I'm going to share something that might make you angry. It might make you sad. It might definitely make you see your past differently. But by the end of this video, you're going to understand why your sensitivity isn't your weakness. It's the strength that that's been, others have been trying to dim for decades. For decades. As I got, I'm just going to share a little bit personal story. As I got, into my 30s, I had healed from these other relationships, 40s even. I would get into these relationships where the guy told me, "Wow, I just love how outspoken you are. I love how you speak your mind. Not too many people do this." And then as I started to do it more, they didn't like it. And so then they started doing these gaslighting behaviors, which started making me small. And I didn't even see it happening. It was so insidious. It was happening so slowly. But by the end of it, I was thinking, 2, 3, 5 years later, who am I? Who am I anymore? I've forgotten who I am. So, let's talk about when I was 12 years old. The first time somebody told me I was too sensitive, right? I had cried when my teacher embarrassed me in front of the class, and others in my life said, "Toughen up, honey. The world isn't going to coddle you. You need to get a backbone. You're too sensitive." Fast forward to my 20s. "You're too sensitive," when I got upset about my boyfriend's behavior. My 30s. "You're being dramatic," when I spoke up about workplace issues. My late 30s, 40s. "You're too emotional," when I tried to address problems in my relationship. And you know what happened? I started believing it. I started shrinking my responses, questioning my instincts, apologizing for having feelings. And I spent 30 years thinking I was broken. That's a long time to waste. Then I learned the truth. I wasn't too sensitive. I was being systematically gaslit by people who benefited from my silence. And I'm willing to bet the same thing has happened to you. And that's why you're here today. Here's what nobody tells you. You're too sensitive isn't an observation. It's a weapon. It's the modern version of "calm down, little lady," and it's designed to do one thing. It's designed to make you smaller. Let me ask you something. When was the last time someone told a man he was too sensitive for getting angry about something? When was the last time a man was called dramatic for raising his voice in a meeting? When was the last time a man was told he was overreacting to disrespect? Oh, wait. Yeah, think about that. But women, we've been hearing this our whole lives. 5 years old when we cried. 15, when we had feelings about being treated poorly. At 25, when we spoke up at work. At 35, when we had needs in a relationship. And now at 40 and over 40, we're done. We're done being told our reality is wrong. And here's the part that's going to make you mad, and this isn't accidental. This is a systematic way to keep women quiet, compliant, second guessing themselves, because a woman who trusts her instincts is dangerous to people who profit from her confusion, from her being small, from her constantly saying, wait, maybe I am. Wait, maybe I am. Maybe I was acting that way. Maybe I did say that in a not nice way. So let me break down exactly how gaslighting works. And I want you to think about your own life as I explain this. Step 1. You have a normal human reaction to something hurtful, right? We're human. We have normal human reactions. Maybe someone disrespects you. Maybe someone breaks a promise, treats you poorly, and your emotional response is proportional to the offense. 2, the label. Instead of addressing their behavior, they label your reaction as too much, too sensitive, or dramatic, or even that was mean. Notice they're not talking about what they did. They're turning it around and talking about your response to what they did. Step 3, the doubt. You start questioning if you're overreacting. Maybe you're being too sensitive. Maybe you should just let it go. Maybe you're making a big deal out of nothing. Ooh, that doubt. That doubt's powerful. It can completely derail you. Step 4, the shrinking. You start moderating your responses to avoid the label. You stop speaking up. You swallow your feelings. You apologize for having emotions. Somebody does something that doesn't sit well with you and it hurts your feelings and you cry. And you're the one who apologizes for crying. Notice they're not apologizing for hurting your feelings. Step 5, the control. They now control what you're allowed to feel. Your emotional thermostat essentially is set by their comfort level and not your actual experience. Here's the kicker. Once you're in the cycle, you'll police yourself. You'll say, I'm probably being too sensitive before you even express a concern. And you've internalized their control. And I want you to think about this. How many times have you started a sentence with, I'm probably overreacting, but, or I don't want to be too dramatic, but guess what? That's the gaslighting talking. So now let's talk about who's really behind this label, because understanding their motivation changes everything. So an emotionally unavailable person, they can't handle emotions. It's theirs or yours, right? So your feelings make them uncomfortable, so they convince you that you're the problem. It's easier to label you as too sensitive than to develop any kind of emotional IQ. Then you have the conflict avoidant person. They don't want to deal with problems, so they just minimalize your concerns. You're being dramatic is code for, I don't want to have this conversation. The manipulator, they're literally trying to get away with bad behavior. If they convince you that your reaction is the problem, then they never have to change their actions. The insecure person, your emotional awareness threatens them. You can read rooms, right? You can pick up on subtleties and you call out what's really happening. Yeah, you are sensitive because you're a sensitive person. They need you to doubt your perceptions so they can control the narrative essentially. And here's what I want you to understand. The people calling you too sensitive are usually the ones who are emotionally stunted, conflict avoidant, or literally trying to get away with something. They don't want you to be less sensitive. They want you to be less aware. and I've talked about this in other videos, awareness is key. It's such an underestimated tool to have. But once you're aware, that is so powerful. And they don't want you to be aware. So let's bust some myths that you've probably believed your whole life. Myth number 1. If multiple people say you're sensitive, well, then it must be true. So let's do a little reality check with that one. Multiple people can have the same agenda to keep you quiet. And often what's happening in our external environment is a reflection of what's going on internally. This is not saying that you're at fault for this, but if multiple people are breaking you down, gaslighting you, and you've internalized this, that's going to be reflected, and multiple people can try to keep you quiet. If you're surrounded by people who benefit from your silence, of course they'll say you're too much. That's not validation. That's some kind of, it's almost like there's a gaslighting convention that they're getting together to collude that you are the sensitive person. Some people benefit from having this lifetime gaslighting membership. So myth 2, you need to toughen up to survive. How many times have you been told that? Toughen up, you need a backbone. Here's the truth. The world doesn't need you to be tougher. It needs you to stop being so comfortable with your silence. You're not supposed to build armor against mistreatment. You're not supposed to build armor against, being treated poorly, being talked to in a not nice way, being disrespected, being undervalued. Other people are supposed to stop mistreating you. Myth 3, sensitive people are weak. And that's the biggest lie that has ever been told. Do you know what it takes to feel everything and still show up? I've been sensitive, and I didn't know how sensitive I was until just a few years ago. Went through my life just feeling everyone, everything. And as I reflect on those years, I think to myself, do you know how the strength that was required to stay open in a world that punishes vulnerability? In my life, the sensitive people are the strongest people I know. Myth 4, you're being dramatic. No, let's shut that one down right away. You're having a proportional response to being mistreated. If somebody is telling you you're being dramatic because of the way they have done something and they're deflecting and turning it on you, you are not being dramatic. Remember, your reaction is in proportion to what has been done. If someone hurts you and you react, it's not drama. It's simple. It's cause and effect. They created the situation. You're responding to it. Myth 5. Just let things go. Let it go. Especially after the movie came out, everybody was talking about letting it go. Just let it go. Let it slide. Guess what that translates to? You should just accept poor treatment. Why? You should just let things go when other people don't have to change their behavior. Now, here's a question for you to think about. Why is your comfort always the thing that gets sacrificed? So let's talk about what to say instead. This is what we're going to do. I'm going to give you some phrases to use the next time someone tries to gaslight your emotions. So you can practice these with me. You can pause this. You can save this video and go back to it. When they say you're too sensitive, my experience of you is that you're uncomfortable with my emotions. That's not my problem to fix. That sentence right there, my experience of you is one of the most powerful tools I've ever used in my life. I tried it just recently with somebody who just had there was a chronic pattern of not treating me nicely or talking to me in a way that was disrespectful. But I had this conversation and something disrespectful came up. And instead of saying, you said this, I said, wow, my experience of you is that you are so disrespectful and you don't know how to treat people in a kind way. Whoa, you would have thought that I had crushed this person's world by saying my experience of you. Because I'm not saying this is the type of person you are, this is your character. I'm not defining you, but I'm telling you what my experience of you is. And you can't take that away from me because it is mine. So try that next time. So when they say you're being too dramatic, I'm not dramatic. My response is in proportion to your behavior. Simple, it's cause effect. Throw that one at them. When they say you're overreacting, I'm not overreacting. You're under responding to the impact of your actions, of your words. I love that one. I'm not overreacting. You're underreacting. When they say you need to calm down, I am calm. You're just not used to me having boundaries. And last one, when they say you're making a big deal out of nothing, you say, if it's nothing, then you should have no problem changing it. Those are some powerful words to empower you so that you find your voice when you're stuck in these situations. And don't be surprised when you set these verbal boundaries with people, when you start actually standing up to the gaslighting, they might move out of your life. I had a friend that said, you're so sensitive. And I was sensitive. I was going through a rough time. I was going through a breakup and I needed her support. And she turned it around on me saying, well, I'm not like that. You're a healer type. You're too sensitive. And I set a boundary the next time I talked to her. Do you think I heard from her again? Nope. And it took me a while to get through that because I had lost a friend or somebody that I thought was a good friend. But now in retrospect, I am proud of myself for standing up because she was telling me I was too sensitive. She was telling me I'm a healer type. It's you versus them. That's gaslighting. And gaslighting doesn't just happen with intimate partners, husbands, wives. It can happen in any relationship. So here's one more that I really love. This is the last one. So if somebody does say that you are sensitive, thank you for noticing. I am sensitive, especially to people who try to minimize my experience. And that's not being mean. You're setting a boundary. Here's the most powerful response to add to all of this. Silence. After you deliver your line, stop talking. Let them sit with it. Let them sit with the mirror that you just literally held up to them. Don't explain. Don't justify. As women, we get into these patterns that we have to explain how we felt, how we said something. You don't have to justify anything. Don't soften it. Just let your words land. So, let's talk about sensitivity as your superpower. Let me tell you what sensitivity actually is. It's emotional intelligence. It's the ability to, like I said, read a room, connect with people, detect when something is off. It's intuition. It's empathy. And it's the capacity to feel deeply and love fully. If that's you, pat yourself on the back. Because think about that. It's amazing. We're on this planet, in this body, for such a short time. And to spend that time feeling deeply, loving fully, is such a gift. Some people don't have that. Sensitive people are the ones who notice when someone's hurting. They're the ones who can sense tension before it explodes. And they're the ones who create safe spaces for others to be vulnerable. They're not insulting your weakness. They're trying to dim your strength. Because a woman who trusts her instincts, who feels deeply, who responds authentically, guess what? She is unstoppable. You're not too sensitive. You're finally sensitive enough to notice what's been happening to you. And that's awareness. That's your superpower. So if this video hit you like a truck, just like it hit me when I first started learning about gaslighting and that it was happening to me, you're not alone. Thousands of women are waking up to this truth every day. If you're ready to stop apologizing for feeling things, for expressing things, for speaking up for yourself, for advocating for yourself, I've opened up limited coaching spots where we practice turning your sensitivity into your secret weapon. The link is in the description below. The world doesn't need you to be less sensitive. It needs you to be unapologetic to yourself. So if you enjoyed this video, hit subscribe, like, share this channel, and comment below. I answer all the comments. And stay tuned for my next video. This week we are going into a deep dive about gaslighting. And just remember, every time we refuse to shrink, we give another woman permission to take up space.